Hello, hello, Awoken TV. How's everybody doing? How's the Awoken community today? How's everybody doing on this fabulous Friday? I'm going to give you guys a minute to hop on here. I'm just going to open this on my phone just in case the comments aren't working. So if you guys jump on, definitely say hi, say hello, and let me know where you're tuning in from. I'm so happy to have you here. Welcome to Awoken TV. If you have not been to Awoken TV before, check out the App Store for Awoken TV and also go to the website www.awoken.tv because you're going to find other shows like this. You're going to find courses, you're going to find conscious filmmakers, films, and really anything that you need for your spiritual and metaphysical journey. So, this is a beautiful place to be. It's a gorgeous community full of mission driven souls who are here to raise the vibration of the planet. So, welcome. So glad to have you here. Welcome back if you haven't been here before. This is a new time for therapeutic wisdom from the Akash. Typically, I go live on Sunday nights. Hi, Forte. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you for saying hello from Aussie. Appreciate it. So, yeah, so my name is Laura Mazzotta, and I'm an Akashic healer and teacher. I've also been a therapist in New York for almost 20 years, and I transitioned over from traditional therapy to Akashic healing after December of last year. I've been building this spiritual business for a couple years, but decided that this is really where my faith is entirely, right? I found that my suggestions for my clients got to the point where they were entirely spiritual. And I was like, okay, it's time. So anyway, I am here to share the Akashic Records with as many people as will listen. And I actually just did a live on my personal page with one of my clients from the Akashic Records certification program. So if you want to learn more about them, definitely feel free to jump over there and check it out. It's a quick one. It's only about 20 minutes. So today we're going to be talking about indecision. So if you know anybody who could benefit from listening to this video, I really encourage you to share this out with them or to tag them and invite them, because whether you're watching live or on the replay, because indecision is something that really plagues a lot of human beings. It really plagues a lot of people. So, indecision is something that I struggled with for years. I struggled with indecision for so long, and it's not something that I deal with anymore at all. It's like completely gone from my life. And so I love to be able to help other people get to the same point, because it can really take up so much of your time, so much of your energy, and really leave you, not really feeling all that great about yourself. So I think this is really an important topic to talk about. So if you guys are watching on Emerge Healing and Wellness or in another group, I definitely encourage you to jump over to Awoken TV, because I'm not going to be able to see your comments if you comment live on any other page. So I'll obviously be able to answer them after the live, anywhere you comment, especially if you tag me, but I won't be able to see them unless you're on the Awoken TV Facebook page. So just a little note in case you're somewhere else and trying to talk to me and you think I'm ignoring you. So indecision. So my first question around indecision, or I should say the Akasha's first question is, are you really having trouble deciding? Like, are you really having trouble deciding? Because most of the time, when we find ourselves indecisive, we really do know the answer that we prefer. We really do know what lights us up and the path we want to follow. But we're either embarrassed to say it, or we're ashamed, or we feel like we should pick something different, or we don't entirely trust ourselves. And so we're like, I don't know. Like, I know this is what I prefer, but I'm not really sure I trust my judgment. Like, I'm not really sure that I can rely on the fact that I think this is a good idea or that this is a good plan. Right. And so you're trying to kind of bat this around in your head with your ego. A lot of people, when they get super indecisive and stuck, they make pro and con lists. And with those pro and con lists, and if you guys have worked with me before, you know very clearly that when I make pro and con lists, or when my clients do, I highly recommend that you weight them when you make pro and con lists, because making a list of 10 pros and 3 cons does not mean that the pros win, okay? Because how do you know that those 3 things on the cons list are dramatically more important to you than the things that are on the other list, right? So you want to make sure that you weight each thing that you put down on a scale of 1 to 10, so that you can then add them up and average them out at the end and truly get a value to be able to identify which way feels better to you. Either way, this is an egoic exercise. We're using our mind. So it's a band-aid approach. It's something that can help us as we're kind of getting through if we really feel like we need to make a decision in the moment. But ultimately, over time, it's going to be much better and much easier for you to just get really, really in touch with trusting your intuition and trusting your gut, right? Because this indecision comes from a place where it's like, all right, I'm either confused about this because there's six other people who are giving me their 2 cents and I don't know what the hell to do. So I'm just going to sit here in indecision, right? And not make any decision because I'm feeling paralyzed because I don't want to upset anybody. There's a lot of people pleasing that can go on with indecision. So it's really important for you to assess that for yourself, right? And you guys can let me know in the comments too. Like, do you find that your indecision is true indecision, or is it, well, I'm just afraid to express my true opinion. I'm afraid to be seen. I don't want to piss people off. Like, I'm afraid of, pleasing people. I'm really eager to please people, right? Or if this is really around, I don't trust my own judgment, right? Because it could be around any of those different things. It's not just indecision because you truly don't know what to do. Because I can tell you that 99.9% of the time, you are going to know your decision. Your soul knows your decision. Your heart knows your decision. Your gut knows your decision. Are you listening? Are you opening yourself up enough to really listen to the cues from your physical body, the cues from your emotions, the cues from the universe, and the signs that are coming forward, telling you that you're moving in a certain direction? I used to have a client that I worked with for almost 10 years, and she was just so indecisive all the time. And I remember telling her, one of the things that you need to learn is that, or have an awareness of, is the fact that you know most of the time, and you can know by realizing where you start to take action, right? Like, what are you leaning towards? Okay, so do you want to go with this photographer or this photographer? Oh, okay, you're starting to look up the pictures on this person's website. You're starting to figure out what their prices look like, right? That means you're actually taking action towards that. So sometimes if we don't know consciously, or if we're really confused, or we're still in that process of understanding our gut and listening to our intuition and really honing that so that we can rely on it and use it as a foundation, until we get to that point, it can be helpful for us to just say, all right, let me take a step back and look at my actions. Where am I putting my time and energy? Because those are the things that you're prioritizing. And this can be a really helpful thing when we're looking at indecision too, to identify, like, what are the things that you really value? What are the things that you say you really value? And line that up against, what are you actually putting your time and energy toward? Because a lot of times we put our time and energy towards things that we don't say we value at the highest level. But really, the things that we value at the highest level are the things that we're putting our time and energy into. So you either need a reevaluation of your value system, because your value system may not be entirely yours. It may be conditioned from what you've learned in the past. It may be based on fears from either your ancestors or from a past life or previous situations in this lifetime. Okay. So there can be so many reasons why you get to that place of doubt. There can be so many reasons when you get to that place of indecision. And a lot of times, yes, it is because we get these critical messages from people in our lives that make us feel like we're not trustworthy. But guess what? We don't have to choose to believe them. We get to take that theory and we get to put it on the table and line it up against all of the data and evidence we have that supports or negates whatever it is that belief or that criticism or that statement means to us. We get to decide what it means to us. We can decide that it's like pennies, silly, no thanks, not interested, like that doesn't hold any water with me. Right. And the way that you get to that is by increasing your confidence, right? And we need, because if you're indecisive, that's an area that you're not confident. And you may find that you're indecisive in an area that just one area. And so you're not confident in that area. It doesn't mean you're not confident across the board, but it's just heightening that awareness for you so that you're able to identify, okay, so this is an area where I'm having trouble making decisions, but I'm technically a pretty confident person. So how can I take these strategies and this framework of success that I have for these other areas where I do make good decisions and translate it over to this area? So perfect example. So many people. Oh my gosh, I can't even tell you how many times I've seen this over the past 20 years as a therapist. They'll come in and they'll just be like, "Oh, I'm just like, my husband is so terrible at communicating. He's terrible at communicating and he's lazy and he just like can't get anything done and he starts projects and he doesn't finish them and he's not focused and blah 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 blah." And then I'm like, "Okay, well, what does your husband work?" "Yeah, my husband works." "Well, how does your husband do at work?" "Well, he's focused, he's efficient, he's energetic, he's really good at communicating," right? So it's like, "Okay, great. He has a blueprint of success there." So what is it that's holding him back from being able to fully execute that in his personal life? Right? So it's just being able to identify, are there fears there? Is there a fear of intimacy? Is there a fear of abandonment? Is there something underneath that that he needs to look at a little bit more deeply because he's truly not an indecisive person. It's just the context that changes that can then shift how he approaches it. Does that make sense? So, what's really cool is that when you tap into divine intelligence, you tap into your higher self, you tap into your spiritual form, you realize that there is no room for doubt. There is absolutely no room for doubt in the spirit world. It just doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist. The reality that is the reality that is, if that makes any sense. It is what it is. Like, why fight it? Right? So if you can connect with your Akashic records, go into deep medication. Maybe you want to. Meditation, call on your spirit guides or your angels and bring them forward. Allow them to be a team with you on this area of indecision and be able to say like, okay, when I visualize myself moving forward into the highest version of myself, into the next more up-leveled version of myself in this human form, what does that look like? And does this decision or this decision get me closer to that person I would like to become? Get me closer to that version of myself that is a higher version, a more spiritual version, a more aligned version of myself. So let me know if this is resonating and what takeaways you guys have taken so far from this. I'm just going to take a quick drink of water and tune back into the Akash here and see what else they have to say about indecision. If you guys have questions about indecision or an area where you're having trouble deciding, let me know and I can tap into the Akash for you and see what kind of wisdom they have to share. It's just they're talking about faith. Like they're talking about really being able to have faith, not just in yourself, because truly you're an extension of source. So really having faith in source. And when you're indecisive, you're not having faith in source, right? Like you're not putting your faith in source. So it's not just, oh, where's this blueprint of success and how can I translate this over to this area of my life? That may be all you need, but it may mean that you need to think a little bit deeper and cultivate a more faith-based relationship with the universe, right? Start to say, hey, if I'm meant to go in this direction, universe, show me this sign within the next 3 days, or show me these three signs within 24 hours, or something like that, right? And request their assistance. They will show you. The question is, are you going to be listening? Are you going to keep your eyes open to continue to receive these signs? Because there's always signs. There's always signs. Sometimes we miss them. And so that's why it's really important for you to set your intentions very clearly. And if your intentions are to procrastinate less, like Judy says, and yes, I'll tune into that for you, Judy, no problem. To procrastinate less, you set that intention. You ask for guidance from the angels or from your guides or from your loved ones, right? You ask for guidance and then you wait to receive the answer, reminding yourself every day that that is your intention. Because if you're not remembering that that's where you're focused and you're getting distracted, then you're giving the universe a mixed message, right? And then they're like, well, this isn't that important to her. Okay. So, Judy, procrastination. Any messages on procrastination? So, procrastination is there's a couple different thoughts on this that are coming forward from the Akash. So, one is that procrastination is something that you can look at, and I'd be interested to hear your feedback on this, Judy, as we process this here together. But procrastination is really about You can say it's self-sabotage. You can say that you're procrastinating to sabotage yourself because ultimately you're afraid of failure. You're afraid of things not unfolding in the way that you planned or according to your agenda. So it's also really important to surrender the agenda, surrender the outcome to source, because if you're so attached to the outcome, like, okay, well, this, I have to get an A on this, or I have to get this done by this time for work, and it has to be this caliber, right? If you're so attached to the outcome, you're going to grip it to death until you get to that outcome, right? And so then you're not going to want to approach it because that doesn't feel good, right? It feels stifling. You're restricting the flow of energy. So you're not necessarily going to want to get to that point, okay? So it's good for you to hold on, let me see what they're saying because they're talking right now. I'm getting distracted by them. Let me see what they're saying. Yeah, so it's you can do one of two things. It's either calling you to adjust your agenda, adjust your expectations, or it's calling you to really surrender the outcome entirely and enjoy the process. Find a process that feels really good. Like, for instance, for me as a therapist, I hated submitting insurance claims, hated it. It was like pulling teeth. My husband would be like, it would be nice if you got paid for your services. So could you please submit those claims so that you can get a paycheck? Yeah, sure, no problem. So I started creating rituals around it, right? Like, where I'd have like my cup of tea and my biscotti, and I would light a candle, and then I would burn some Palo Santo and listen to some pretty music. And it would be time that I could shut my door, chill out, get super cozy. I could do it wherever I wanted to, and allow myself to really appreciate the process. Okay. So that's one of the things that's coming forward. The other thing about procrastination is that honestly, it can just be a cue that you don't want to work with masculine energy, which masculine energy is all about structure. It's all about assertiveness. It's all about being really bold and demonstrative, all of those things, right? It's also very loving and protective and nurturing. But unfortunately, in this society, in this world, we have gotten too accustomed to the false masculine. And the false masculine is really that like pushy, can feel abusive, kind of rigid approach, right? That's not the divine masculine energy as it actually exists in spiritual form. It's actually the false masculine energy, okay? But we get distracted by that. And so unfortunately, we live in a society where there is a lot of false masculine energy going on, which was really developed because males felt all this pressure on them from like centuries and centuries ago, when they were the ones who were meant to provide and protect. And if they couldn't uphold that, then they felt inadequate. They felt emasculated. And so as a result, they ended up creating this false masculine persona to be able to make themselves feel better, to present that front, even if they weren't feeling or experiencing that underneath, right? So with procrastination, it can be a sign that your energy is actually rejecting or resisting that false masculine structure of deadlines. This is when things have to be done. Don't listen to your energy and how you feel, or listen to your body and how you feel, or listen to your emotions and how you feel. Instead, get it done by this time. Make sure you get this outcome because we need to bring in this much business or make this much money or X, Y, and Z, right? So, which one of those resonates most with you, Judy? I'd be curious to know. Do you feel like it resonates more with the self sabotage side, or do you feel like it resonates more with, you know what? My energy actually might be more feminine. My energy might be more comfortable naturally with going with the flow, right? Like just kind of chilling and being like, you know what? This is what I feel like doing today. And my body feels this so palpably. And I'm so excited. And this is what I want to do. That's how I feel every single time I enter the Akashic Records. I'm like, oh my gosh, I get to do this for a living. This makes me feel phenomenal. And then when I leave that space, I'm like on cloud nine. Right. And so that's the new paradigm of doing business. That's the new way of how we are interacting with our energy, is not necessarily getting these deadlines and these ways of being dictated to us. Instead, that we get to decide. We don't have to follow suit every single time a structure or rigid deadline comes up. You'd be like, well, I'll get fired. Well, okay, we could talk that through, of course. Those are the kinds of things that I help my clients with. How do we navigate this situation that feels kind of sticky? So, how does that feel, Judy? I would love to get some feedback from you. I am a generator in human design, so I do much better when people offer me questions and asking me things, and then I get to respond, right? Because that's in human design. I don't know if you've learned your human design, but Judy, I would be so curious what your human design shows with the four arrows that are at the top of your head on your chart, because that's what's going to show you whether or not your natural energetic blueprint is more feminine or more masculine. Okay, whether your energetic blueprint prefers more of that flow energy, or whether your energetic blueprint prefers more like deadlines and specificity and things like that. Okay, so you can also learn that by looking up your human design. Or, of course, oh, you're a manifester. Okay, cool. All right, you're a manifester. I would love to know, what are the arrows at the top of your head? Do they all go to the left? Do they all go to the right? Are they mixed? I would love to know. And you may not have your chart in front of you, but you can take a look while I answer these other questions too. Hi, Diane. So good to see you, honey. I need help with anxiety, not with getting things done. Okay, so you just need help with some anxiety, right? I know. And you and I have exchanged some messages on that as well. So I'm just going to send you some Reiki and tune into your energy here. And we're talking about indecision today. And indecision is a huge piece of anxiety for sure. For sure. Thank you, Cassidy, so much for sharing my body graph. That's a beautiful place to just look up your chart again, Judy, if you don't have it in front of you. And just let me know what your arrows are doing. So yeah, so indecision's a big piece with anxiety because your mind's all over the place, right? You get so distracted by your own thoughts. And again, part of this can be people pleasing, right? With the indecision. And so it's really important for you to identify, like, if you had a magic wand and there were anything in your life that you could change, that you could add, or that you could take away to make your anxiety dramatically better, what would that one thing be? And don't think about it too much. Just say the first thing that comes to your mind, because that's what exists in your subconscious. When we really search and we really rack our brains to get information, that's coming from our ego. It's not coming from our gut. It's not coming from our intuition. Anxiety exists in the ego. Anxiety can also exist as a fear based response that comes from our primitive brain. You know, our primitive brain that really developed to protect us, to keep us safe. That's what fight, flight, or freeze comes from, right? And so a lot of people who have chronic anxiety are stuck in that. And I know that you've been experiencing that chronically, Diane, and that means that it's very likely that this anxious pattern does not just exist within this lifetime. It probably goes back to your ancestors and possibly even past lives. So that's something we can explore more deeply in the Akashic Records. And I know I messaged you with the link for activating Akashic Wisdom. It's a beautiful opportunity for you to get really personalized attention and coaching on these things. And we can go back to past lives, we can clear your ancestry in this group coaching program that starts on Monday. It's only $333. It's 3 weeks. It's 3 60-minute coaching calls, and it's small. We're going to be on Zoom. It's going to be nice and intimate. You can get feedback on whatever you want. It can be professional, it can be personal, but that would be something that I think could be productive to look into more deeply, because I know it's a really persistent anxiety for you. And I felt the same way. I don't know if you have tried tapping before, Diane, but tapping is such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful modality because you get to release at the same time that you get to internalize new belief systems. Okay. So you're disconnecting from that old story and creating a new one and reminding yourself to tune in with who you are, right? That center of who you are. And that's what anxiety can distract us from. Anxiety can distract us from that core of who we are. And we don't want to get distracted from that. We want our lights to shine. We want to know ourselves so intimately. Okay. And tapping is one great way for sure. But if you don't do it consistently enough, then you're not necessarily, oh, good. I would recommend doing tapping about 5 times a day if you're experiencing pretty significant anxiety. If it's moderate, maybe 3 times a day. And if it's mild, definitely 1 to 2 times a day. Okay. And I would make sure that you do that consistently for sure. But honestly, I had chronic anxiety for my entire life. And the only time it went away was when I found the spiritual path and when I started working with the Akashic Records. A lot of anxiety that exists in my family line on both sides of my family, and even further back, people that I never even met before. And so it's really important to also identify, how do I clear this for them and for myself and for future generations? I had to clear it much more deeply. And that's where stepping forward and saying, like, okay, I'm not going to be indecisive about this. I'm just going to decide. I'm going to make a decision. I'm going to invest in myself. I'm going to dive deeply and I'm going to transform this for good. Okay. All right, Diane. So I hope that supports you. All right. And I apologize if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, Forte, but thank you so much for asking a question. And let me just tune into this. I have trouble getting a grip on the whole higher self. Where is he? Okay, cool. Thank you for asking that. What a good question. Okay, so your higher self technically exists at your soul star chakra. That's where we meet our higher self. Okay, so our crown's right here, like just above our head, and our soul star chakra is above that. Okay. So when we enter the Akashic Records and we're aligning our chakras and we're checking in with this little map we have energetically with our chakra system, we allow ourselves to rise up from our heart space into past our crown into that soul star chakra. And it's at that soul star chakra that we can invite our higher self in and connect. And so with your higher self, you're able then to identify, okay, what does my higher self look like? What does it feel like to be in my higher self's presence? What is the nature of my higher self? How can my higher self guide me in whatever situation you happen to be in to be able to move forward in the highest good for all? The higher self can look different and feel different depending on the person. Okay. The soul really resides within our physical bodies. The higher self actually exists in another dimension. Okay. So we are developing a relationship with our higher self, just like we develop a relationship with our spirit guides and our ancestors and angels and ascended masters. Okay. We are developing a relationship with our higher self. And the more that we show ourselves and show our higher self that we trust it, that we're serious about cultivating this relationship and making it one that is truly co creative, one that we are saying, you know what, I want to create this life with you. I want to create a life that really serves my soul's path and fulfills my soul's purpose. So let me know if that answers your question or if you have other specific as other specific questions around it. But I'd also love to take you in to the records and assist you with meeting with your higher self, because that's a really powerful activation actually. Every single time I've done that in my courses or with individual clients, they're just like, wow, because you see this exalted version of yourself and you realize that that spark and that exalted nature exists within you all the freaking time, right? And it's just a matter of practicing connecting with that relationship. It's just like if you meet somebody and they don't have the best communication skills or you can't get a read on them right away, right? You don't automatically just kick them to the curb right away. You take time because there's still something about connecting with this person that feels good. There's still something that feels like it serves you and you're intrigued enough that you stick around. And so that's what you do with your higher self. And you say, okay, I might not know how to communicate with this being quite yet. I might not totally understand my higher self quite yet, but I also know really confidently that that will change, that this relationship will develop over time, that as I devote myself to it, that it will devote itself to me. And of course, it devotes itself to you. It's always devoted to you. It's kind of in waiting for you. So let me know if you have questions. Judy, I'm looking at my chart. I don't know which arrows to look at. Two red arrows, left side, right side going in opposite directions. Yeah, you can send me a picture. Absolutely. Hopefully I'll be able to zoom in. If not, I could do it on my phone. I love reading charts. It's so fun. Thanks for pulling it up, Judy. Just because I think it's going to be really cool for you to know what like your natural energy is drawn toward, because then you're going to be able to um not worry so much about the freaking procrastination. Sounds good? Okay, cool. And if you want to meet with your higher self, come join me in Activating Akashic Wisdom. We're going to be diving into that on Monday. And it's going to be a nice small group on Zoom. And I just like can't wait. How do you send it? You should be able to. Oh, you know what? Send it to me in Messenger. Send it to me in Messenger. Let me see if I can pull you up. Oh, there you are. All right, I just sent you a message on Messenger so you can send me your chart picture for human design. Also, while I'm waiting for this to pop up from Judy, um, and you can go to my personal profile, Judy, and just click on the message button if you're having trouble seeing the message I just sent you. Um, is everybody feeling this new moon energy already? Because I totally am feeling this new moon energy already. And I actually took a picture of a card that I pulled from the moon deck, which is like my favorite deck for moon energy. And it says, now is the time to integrate all that I have gathered, which is exactly the message that I have been telling my coaches and mentors, and that has been coming forward in my journaling and the programs that I'm part of, that integration is just as important as learning, that we need to take everything that's coming forward, everything that's been passed on to us, and be able to allow ourselves to really sink into what we've already gathered and cultivated, right? And just allow it to sink in, appreciate it, celebrate it, right? Like really celebrate it instead of just being like, all right, got that done, check that off my list, move on, you know? That's not being loving to ourselves. So, new moons are a dark moon. So, it's a really good time to rest, to tune into our intuition, to go within. And so, having this course beginning in new moon energy, because new moon energy is available 3 days before and 3 days after the new moon, is such beautiful timing because the energy is going to be on our side whenever we do work, energy work alongside cosmic events, like significant cosmic events. It's just easier for us to integrate the energy, right? Because it's easier for us to integrate the energy because it's already flowing in the universe. We're just kind of riding the wave. All right, Judy, it doesn't look like you've checked my message yet. So if you go into Messenger and you go into chats and you tap in at your on your little head in the top left corner, you'll be able to see message requests, and you'll be able to see that I message requested you if you're having trouble finding it. And if not, we can do this later, okay? We can do this later, and I can let you know what your energy is saying. Okay, cool. So, anybody else have any other questions? Otherwise, we're going to sign off. Thank you so much for being here and part of this conversation on indecision. If you know anybody who's super indecisive, tag them, send this to them, because it's really important that these conversations become really open. It's really important that these conversations become public because there's so many things that we hide behind. There's so many patterns that we get stuck in that we don't necessarily realize is, hi, Anne, so good to see you. We don't necessarily realize, you know, what's going on in our subconscious, first of all, because that's 95% of what goes through our minds is existing in our subconscious mind, and we don't have conscious access to all day, every day. But you're so indecisive. Okay. So you can go back and listen to this from the beginning for sure, my friend. And I can see if there's any messages coming through for you, sure. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's really important for us to normalize these kinds of things. You know, everybody's indecisive. Everybody has periods of indecision. And that doesn't mean that it's a symptom of depression and oh my gosh, you need medication or you need to go to therapy right away or something, right? Like it's truly just about like trusting yourself and getting into stillness with yourself. So definitely maximize that for you. Okay. So I'm just going to tune in here for you, Anne, and see if there's anything coming through for you, love. Around indecision in particular, since that's what we're focusing on today. Interesting. So, oh, yay, Judy, I'm so proud of you. Look at you, send in your chart. Good job. I'll look at that in just a second. Okay. So yeah, so they're showing me, actually, it's interesting because they're showing me this argument back and forth between your parents, where like your mom and oh, there's actually a link right there, Diane, that I can actually, Cassidy, can you just reply to Diane's comment and put the link? It's pinned to the top of the comments, which I actually don't even know how you pinned that comment, Cassidy, because I've been trying to figure out how to pin comments and I don't know how to freaking do it. So good job, my tech savvy team. Um, So yeah, so they're showing me this like bickering, this like back and forth between your mother and your father and your mother and your father, and it's like spitting at each other, right? And it like makes you crazy and you feel like you're stuck in the middle and you're like, "Oh my gosh, like just shut up already." You know what I mean? Like, and so you feel like you're kind of stuck in this almost like devil on your shoulder, angel on your shoulder, like back and forth because you're in the crossfire of this energy between your parents that just keeps getting sent like this. And so it leaves you kind of like spinning, kind of confused, like, oh God, like I just can't, right? Oh, good, Diane. I'm so glad you have support, honey. That's wonderful. I just honestly feel really strongly, Diane, that you need to dive into some of this spiritual stuff for you because trust me, I've been a therapist for 20 years. I've had people in therapy for 20 years, and this work is so much, it is the most efficient, the most effective. It gets right to the core. I'm telling you, which is why I wanted to scream it from the rooftops via social media. Um, but yeah, and so let me see if they're giving you any insight on this. And I love that. Ooh, that's yummy. That gives me chills. They're talking about like integrating your masculine and feminine energies, yes. Or your mother's and father's energies, however you want to look at this. And we can talk about this more in the course starting Monday because I know that you're signed up for that, which is really good because we can dive into this more if you need additional guidance around it. But yeah, they're talking about how it's really important for you to be that strong pillar of strength and integrate these two energies, realizing that they both have something important to say and almost like visually going into this and visualizing yourself turning towards dad and being like, you tell me what you need to say. And then turning towards mom and being like, you tell me what you need to say. You know what I mean? Giving them each a voice, giving them both a chance to be heard because they're clearly not hearing each other. And then integrating that information and allowing yourself to be that pillar of strength, right? That energy of like, I've got this. Like I know how to listen to them both. I know how to integrate both of these energies at the same time and just make sure that you're grounded while you do it. You can sit your butt on the ground outside. You can put your feet on a grounding mat. You can snack while you're doing it. Whatever makes you feel most grounded. Some essential oils can be helpful for grounding, or some dark colored crystals, particularly like earth colored crystals can be helpful. So anyway, let me know if you have questions on that, Anne, but that's what's coming up as the root of your indecision. Thank you, Judy. Oh my gosh, I don't know if you heard me. As soon as it popped up, I was like, yay, Judy, I'm so proud of you. Yeah, we could definitely add as friends for sure. All right, let me look at this. Of course. So you have two arrows pointing left and you have two arrows pointing right, which means that your natural energetic blueprint is actually in perfect harmony with your divine feminine and your divine masculine. So that's actually pretty cool. So, yeah, your energies are perfectly balanced, which means that this indecision is not something that's natural to you, right? Because you actually have this very natural balance between the feminine and the masculine energies. So, I'm not a human design reader, but I do know a lot about it and I'm continuing to learn more. I'm in a mastermind for it right now and I love it. So I'm learning more and more. But I know the bottom right arrow is your specificity arrow, and it's pointing to the right, which is feminine, which means that you don't necessarily need the things that you want to call into your life to be super specific. Like you're cool with them kind of flowing and being open ended. So there are certain areas that you are okay with having things be a little more flexible, but other areas where you feel like things need to be more rigid or specific. So I will send you a message over Messenger too, because I want to look up what the other arrows mean because I don't remember them off the top of my head because I'm still getting well versed in human design. And I want to give you that feedback. But I think that the most important thing to know here is that you have this balance, right? You have this natural balance. And so that indecision is your ego or it's fear based, is what they're saying. Okay. So it's really important for you to really get connected to that core of who you are. Because when you connect with your higher self, when you connect with your core and your intuition and really strengthen that, you're going to have so much clarity. Like you're not going to be confused anymore. That's the thing. Like all I do is I tune into the records and I'm like, does this make sense to like move me forward into the next version of myself? Like when I picture the next version of myself, am I going to give a shit about this decision? Or which direction would my phenomenal 18 cajillion million dollar self would choose? What would she choose? Right? What would my most free self choose? Okay. And so it's really cool. How will the time difference work? Your Pacific time. Okay. So I believe that the program is at 5 p.m. Eastern. So that means that you would sign on to Zoom at 2 p.m. Eastern, Diane, for that. And they're 60-minute sessions. They're 60-minute group coaching calls each Monday, starting Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern. I believe it's 5 p.m. Let me just double check here. I don't think it's 5:30 because I had like considered 5:30 at one point. No, it's 5. Yeah. Yeah. I was like, I think it's 5. So, yeah, I just know that you could really benefit from the support. And like I said, I really think that anybody who is receiving this, anybody who is showing up to lives like this, anybody who is curious about this kind of information, you're being called to explore the records because that's what happened to me. It's what happened to everybody else that I see in this work that, the records find you, you don't find them. I just did a client spotlight on my personal page for a student who's in my Akashic Records certification program. She actually just finished up her modules and is doing her internship now. But we were talking about the process of like what things were like before she entered the program. What were her hesitations? Like, what was the process like for her, And what was what were the results that she received? And it can be really helpful to hear from somebody who's like fairly new to it. Like when I talk about it, I could talk about it all day. And I'm so like well versed in it now that sometimes people are like, I have basic questions about this space. Like, how do I get started, right? So it's really helpful to reach out to those people who it's pretty fresh for and are starting to like open their eyes and realize like, oh my gosh, right? Because I always said for years, like, I'm just going to be an indecisive person. I'm just going to be an anxious person. But I didn't realize what potential existed outside of what my mind knew. You know what I mean? So, so that's why it's important to step out of our minds, right? And to connect with that unwavering part of ourselves, that part that never has trouble making decisions and always has clarity. And when we allow that guide to guide us, life gets to be easy. So, okay, Judy, thank you. You're welcome. And I'm happy to send you a private message too. You're a Gemini cuspy, June 21st. My son's June 19th. So I love that. You're very, very welcome. Thank you for being here. So grateful for your beautiful energy. And thank you to all of you who have joined me today and engaged with me and chatted. I love that. Again, right? Like I'm a generator. I like to respond. So I love having this back and forth and diving in more deeply with you guys. I will be here live every Friday at 2:15 p.m. Eastern time. So, and I post it the day before because I always like to wait to see what the Akash wants to bring through in the moment that the collective needs to hear. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Definitely check out the course, Activating Akashic Wisdom, that starts on Monday. This is a very rare and beautiful opportunity to get very intimate, personalized coaching from me in the Akashic Records. My programs are typically very high level. And I've just offered this opportunity for people who want to dip their toe in and learn how to use the records, or they need guidance in a certain area of their lives or their business. So it's really it's a tester option for you to be able to really learn how to work with me, how to get your own information from the Akash, and to get really, really kick-ass core level answers that will literally, one reading can change your life. If you are ready to receive the wisdom and you are ready to implement it right now, and you listen to what the Akash brings through, it can be completely life-changing. I've seen people completely turn their lives around after one reading because they were ready. The timing was right. Like they were in that place where I'm like, I'm just done with this shit and I'm ready to just to change things, and I'm ready to receive and move on and shift. So let me know if you guys have questions. Feel free to send me a message. I'm happy to answer them. I know that investing in yourself can be scary. I've been there, done that 8,000 times. It's scary every single time I invest in myself, and I work through it and allow myself to up level my ability to hold the energy, because money is energy, right? And to be able to exchange the energy, because it can feel kind of unsafe when we get to that level and we make that bold decision, right? So let me know if you guys have questions. I love you. Thank you for being here and have a beautiful weekend. And to all of you moms, happy Mother's Day.